If you are an accounting firm looking to grow your business, acquire more customers, or trying to enter into a new market or extend your services, then this episode is for you. Because I've got today Michael Haynes, who is a business growth and go to market specialist, author, and speaker. He's the founder and principal consultant of his consulting firm, Listen, Innovate, Grow. And he's also the author of the book, Listen, Innovate, Grow, a guidebook for startups and SMEs to acquire and grow business customers. So let's welcome Michael in this session. Michael, welcome to the Officer Accountant podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today.
Sure. So I did give a brief about you, but would you like to get your own perspective of what you do for your clients or who do you help?
Sure. So as you introduced me, I'm Michael Haynes. I'm a business growth go-to-market specialist. So my focus, my passion is working with small and medium B2B accounting, technology, and law firms. And I help them to develop and implement their holistic go-to-market strategy roadmaps and action plans to help them acquire, retain, and grow the business clients they seek to ultimately achieve the growth in the firms that they want to achieve.
Right. So you use the word go-to-market strategy, right? What exactly is a go-to-market strategy?
Great question, Sushil. So your go-to-market strategy is your holistic, cross-functional, end-to-end strategy and action plan to enable you to acquire, retain, and grow your customers. So it is a plan that is all-encompassing. It includes helping you opportunity identification. So it identifies what industry verticals, what geographic markets, the kinds of customers, so what kind of client organizations you're going after. It contains your deep understanding, your insights around the buyers, the decision makers involved in the decision process as to whether to go with your accounting advisory firm or to go with someone else. Your go-to-market plan will include what is your program, service, and solutions. So what's your offerings in terms of the services, programs, systems, engagement programs that you're having, as well as what is your plans for client acquisition, as well as retention and expansion. Because it's not enough just to gain your clients, but it's also how to can retain them and grow them. So this is your cross-functional end-to-end roadmap, and it's going to involve, yes, marketing and sales will be a component, but operations, product, client account management, sales, all of those will be incorporated in this holistic go-to-market strategy.
So professional services like accounting or legal services, the end customer is a business, right? So what do you find is the behavior or the thinking process between retail customer versus a B2B customer?
Great question. So there are a number of differences between someone who's buying an individual product as opposed to someone who's coming in to purchase accounting advisory services in this context. So a couple of things. Number one, there will be multiple people involved in the decision making. So as opposed to when you're buying a consumer product, in buying of advisory services, within that organization, there will be multiple people involved in the decision-making process. Each of those people will have different ways in which they will go about researching and deciding who should be the provider. Should they go with accounting advisory X versus Y? They'll do a lot of independent research. So this will be involved, could be doing online research in terms of going onto the websites and researching, looking at articles, case studies. But there's been a big shift when we're talking about purchasing advisory services. There's a big shift in terms of the decision makers. Typically, previously, 3-4 years ago, it would be, how do I solve a certain business issue? The research would be around, how do I solve it? Now, when people are looking for advisory services, the question is, who can help me solve? So as a result, a lot of the research that they're doing is involving talking to industry, talking to their peers and colleagues. There'll be many times your buyers of advisory services, because they're often senior leaders, senior managers themselves. They're members of the industry groups, peer advisory groups, associations. So they're tapping into those networks, those groups of people to get recommendations. So a big part of the buying process in terms of the research is talking to their trusted sources, which could be peers and colleagues, members of their advisory groups, industry associations, tapping into listening to industry experts. So who are the industry leaders? And listening to them, asking them, reading their content as well. So that's one of the big shifts that we see, particularly in the context of advisory services. Multiple people involved in the decision making, doing a lot of their research, and a lot of the research is involved is in tapping into those networks of where their trusted advisors, sources of what I call air advice, insights, and recommendations.
You said that there are a multiple level of decision making to be done, and there are multiple levels, but also each multiple levels goes and seeks out advice from other peers as well. So when you are trying to sell your services to a certain client or a certain business, then you have to be looking at fulfilling expectations of all those involved in the decision making directly, but also the indirect fringes where those in the decision making go and seek advice with as well.
Yes, that is quite correct. And buyers of advisory services, they do a lot of their own research. They do a lot of that research, searching out, talking to people. They will do all of that independent self-research and education before they want to talk to any representatives. So a big part of your go-to-market strategy is proactively making sure you're getting that visibility, you're demonstrating your expertise, because expertise for their particular issues, whether it be strategic planning, mergers and acquisitions, financial planning, that depth of expertise in those particular areas is the number one thing that buyers of professional services are looking for. So you have to demonstrate that expertise where and with whom your prospects and clients go for and seek information, and who are those trusted people that they're talking to and liaising with. You need to be putting it out there proactively, because they are your prospects, your clients are doing that research and information in those networks at those sources before at any point in time before they finally reach out and say they want to have a call with you.
You said that you need to show your expertise to the decision makers, right? But how do you go about showing your expertise to those networks?
So in terms of in terms of how do you demonstrate that expertise, it's about very much you need to be understanding the buyers within those industries and markets that you serve. You really have to be having an in-depth understanding of who those decision makers are, what are their priorities, so what are their key issues, priorities, what's on their agenda, and how do they buy? How do they go about seeking trusted advisor and expertise? Are they attending certain events? Are they members of certain groups? Are they reading certain periodicals? Are they going on a certain website? So you need to know where and what are they using. Is it white papers, articles? Is it online assessment tools? Are there certain industry groups, peer advisory groups that they are members of that they go to for expertise? So we need to understand those behaviors of your target buyers, because that will define what you need to be doing in terms of how you're going to demonstrate, what you need to create, what you need to be doing. So do you need to be doing webinars? Do you need to be on certain industry topical podcasts such as this? Do you need to be involved with certain kinds of CEO advisory groups? And so you need to know what kinds of content you do, for example, as an example, you need to be providing on what topics and where you need to be demonstrating that expertise. It could be potentially online, but on certain industry websites and certain periodicals. Do you need to be visible at certain events? Do you need to be hosting some of your own events, like conducting workshops, roundtables, those kinds of things? So it comes with having an in-depth understanding of your target decision makers that you're currently serving and seeking to serve.
All right. And how does this go-to-market strategy differ from marketing? Because a lot of what you are saying, professional services firms or accountants in particular are not very used to the idea of using strategy or marketing to market their firms, their services, right? So they are more operational people. And I want to understand first, is there a difference between a strategy that you are implementing to reach out to, or to increase your reach on market, or increasing your service lines, but also is there a difference between marketing and strategy?
Okay. Okay. Marketing is a component, of your go-to-market strategy. So it is a component about gaining the visibility. You also need to be understanding in terms of what are those industry markets you're going to be going after. So you need to have done an assessment to identify the right market opportunities. Your go-to-market also includes around the designing of your service offering. So what are you offering in terms of services? Are you offering workshops? Are you offering expertise in specific areas? Operational service and support, how are you servicing and supporting your clients? Are you providing certain kinds of information, certain kinds of tools? So your go-to-market is about designing what are your offerings and how you're going to be servicing and supporting those clients. That has to be a strategy that has to be mapped out and put together depending on the clients that you're serving and what are their requirements, what sorts of needs that they are having. To give you an example, one of my clients, an accounting firm in Sydney, they are looking to become and developing more advisory services because a lot of their clients are construction firms, professional service firms themselves that are accelerating and growing. So they need more advisory services to help those companies that are scaling. So they need to start providing more advanced things around strategic planning, financial planning. So as part of the go-to-market strategy I developed for that firm, we have revamped their offerings to now include things like strategic planning workshops, very detailed financial strategic assessments. Another need that came out from a lot of their clients, because I interviewed a number of the decision makers in some of their key clients to understand what the needs are, is that they want access to expertise. They don't expect their accounting advisory firm to be an expert in all areas, but they want to be able to be connected to other experts. So another component of the offerings now is creating various kind of like a roundtable mastermind where we're pulling together a network of professional service professionals who can provide expertise around M&A, financial planning, tax planning, strategic planning, and providing opportunities through some smaller events that the advisory firm is hosting to enable these companies that they have as clients that are growing and scaling to get exposure to these additional services that they require so that this accounting firm can maintain relevancy. So your go-to-market is not just around promotion. It is around identifying the right kind of markets, designing the right kinds of solutions. And then, yes, it's going to include around what you're going to be doing around client acquisition, but also how do you retain and retain those clients as well. Going back to that same example with the accounting firm, one of the needs that has come up from their clients is that they want to be able to be educated and continuing to learn about what are the trends, what are the new kinds of skills and things that they need to have as their firm is growing. So developing an education program of quarterly seminars and workshops around some of the key topics around technology, strategy planning are just examples of some of the other things, because to maintain these clients that are going into new sectors, they're going into new markets, they want to be educated. So part of the client retention program is providing education on some of the key topics of interest for their clients.
Going back to your example as well, so it makes sense that business clients' first go-to person is their accountants, right? And when they are going into the advisory service line, it makes sense to bringing other professionals as well, like you said, M&A professionals or maybe lawyers. So having that network of services so that they come to you first, and then you can again divert them to for their each individual needs on the other aspects of their business as well. So yeah, I think one of those strategies for someone looking for advisory firms would be that way to go. And you also briefly talk about the AIR framework that you use. What is the AIR framework?
So the AIR framework is AIR stands for Advice, Insights, and Recommendations, because this is in terms of the context of buyers of professional services. So those that are buying accounting services, advisory services, consulting services. There has been a lot of research been done by leading global research firms. And the number one thing that buyers of advisory services are looking for is expertise and depth of expertise. So in order for you to be able to attract and acquire the kinds of clients that you seek, you have to be delivering what I call AIR. So advice, insights, and recommendations on their key priorities and objectives. So these are things, Sushil, such as, what are some of the best practices that are being undertaken? If a firm is looking at, let's say, M&A, looking at, going into acquiring companies going into new markets, what are the best practices? What are some of the strategies and solutions and approaches that they can be using? What are some different options that they can have if the need to modify and increase, let's say, some of their operational or technical capabilities? What are some of the different solutions that are out there? What are some recommendations of do's and don'ts? These are the kinds of things that buyers of advisory services are looking for on those key topics and issues that are most important to them. So the whole focus of what you need to be doing in terms of trying to garner the attention and be getting in front of your client, your prospective clients, is to be providing them with advice, insights, recommendations in terms of solutions, best practices, options, recommendations as to who and how you go about undertaking these things. That is what they are looking for, and that is what needs to come through all that you do, be it client presentations, your content, and then how you do so. You want to make that in line with how your buyers, your prospective buyers, buy. Where and with whom they're going to get that kind of advice, recommendations, information, and insight.
So you also work from different countries. So someone might be an accounting firm or a professional services firm in US trying to go to Australia or vice versa, or to some other markets. So you also work with Asia. So what I wanted to ask is, does culture play as a factor? Do you need to understand cultures when you are also trying to get into a different market as well?
Yes, I do think culture is very important. Business folk are often looking for the same kinds of things, but you want to be conscious of when you are looking to start to engaging and interacting with your prospective clients. You want to be making sure you're mindful of the culture in terms of, for example, the language that is being used. So, for example, Australia and United States are quite similar. However, in terms of, for example, some of the grammar, some of the terminology that is used in Australian English versus US is slightly different. How they spell, organization is spelled with a Z in North America, it's spelled with an S in Australia. So if you're looking to, let's say, do a workshop, or you're conducting a roundtable with some of your prospective clients, and you're distributing some of your workshop materials to go through, you want to be conscious of those things in terms of language, in terms of any other protocols and how they interact. So you definitely want to be mindful and respectful of that, because that's going to impact your ability to engage and connect. Because ultimately, Sushil, this is about unlocking the conversations with these decision makers and developing a relationship, dialogue, and trust. So, having that empathy, that understanding of language, norms, culture, and relating and adapting to that is very important.
All right. I ask this because most of my work also revolves around, since I'm in Asia, and most of my clients are in North America or Australia, right? And so what would you suggest to me, for example, that I should keep in mind when I'm trying to get in front of those clients, and also trying to, like you said, advise, insights, and what was the R?
Recommendations.
Recommendations. So when I'm providing those, what are some of the things that I should be mindful of?
Okay, so I would say the number one thing you need to be making sure you do in terms of when you're going into any new market, be it a local market, be it an international market, the number one thing that you need to be doing is listening, okay? And that's getting that in-depth understanding of the organizations, of the buyers. And so by listening, that's effectively doing a form of market research. Okay, you want to be doing your research, really understanding the markets that you're going into, so that those geographic markets in terms of the conditions, economic conditions, etc. When we're talking about individual organizations and those individual prospective buyers going to be meeting, you want to be doing your research. So going on LinkedIn, going on their company site, and making sure you're having understanding of who those people are. What are some of their key priorities and objectives? From what lens and perspective do they seem to come things at? Are you dealing with a CFO who's going to be heavily around the numbers, or are you going to be dealing with someone who, let's say, have a strategy background that might have a more balanced approach? And understanding and where you can get understanding of the individuals themselves as well, in terms of understanding a bit about their background, their interests, because at the end of the day, for as much as we do a lot of things online, in a B2B context, in a professional services context, where you can have meetings and interactions, be it virtual online roundtables and meetings, or better yet, in person, you want to be building that dialogue and rapport, and being able to address and understand commonalities in terms of having commonalities, of understanding their common interests or being able to relate to them. To give a live example, Sushil, I was dealing with a finance advisory firm in Texas and talking with one of the partners. And we were talking around some of the strategies and approaches. And when talking to him, because I am quite familiar with the state of Texas, because I have family there and I interact there, I was able to make reference to some of the local smaller locations and talk reference to College Station, Texas versus Lubbock versus Sugarland. And so being able to use the language and make it contextual for them, it does help build the rapport. Because like, okay, Michael gets that. Okay, he knows our hood. He knows where we're hanging out. So doing your research and really understanding the industries, the markets that you're going after, the organizations, but getting an understanding around the buyers. Three big things are: who are the buyers, what are their priorities, and how do they buy? What kinds of information do they like? They seek, and what kinds, on what topics, what format, and where are they going for that? You want to understand those things, but where you can get a bit of an understanding around some of their interests, some of their priorities, those kinds, a bit of their background, that can help build some common ground, which can be good icebreakers for when you're getting into discussions, when you're kicking off a roundtable or a workshop. You're having some of those sales meetings, those client review meetings. It can help break the ice and really build that rapport and build that relationship and help strengthen it.
So listening and doing your research, so that you understand their language, not just in the traditional sense of it, but also where they come from, what are their mentalities, what are their thought process as well. So if you can put it out there and relate to, then it would be great, and you'll be on the same plane as the person that you are selling to.
Absolutely. So if you get that understanding, you'll have a sense of how to engage them, where to engage with them, how to engage, because some of your prospects might be some that are heavily involved in certain groups. They're big on being involved in communities, advisory groups. So that's where you really want to be positioning yourself and getting in front of, putting your content there, having workshops and getting exposure there so you can have conversations with them. Then the type of content that they may prefer. Someone might be all about case studies, those kinds of examples. Others may say they may want to perhaps be more quantitative, for an example. Others may also want to say, you know what, Sushil, I want to talk to some of your clients. Who are the references? Where are your advocates? Where are your champions that I can talk to and interact with? So again, by having that understanding of their behaviors, how they buy, what's important to them, what are those trusted sources of information in terms of people, activities, then that is how you're going to tailor a lot of your activities as part of your go-to-market strategies around those.
Right. So, Michael, we have talked through what strategy that you should be building, what you should be doing, but you have also come across a lot of firms making mistakes, right? You have come across a lot of things that you should not be doing. So, what are the mistakes that firms generally make when they are trying to grow their firms, and also the things they should avoid doing?
Okay, what are the things to avoid doing? I'm going to kind of repeat myself a little bit, that doing that upfront, listening, that industry, market, customer research, buyer research, having that understanding is quite important. That is a step that is often missed. And as a result, people often jump to generic tactics and they start doing these generic tactics, Google ads, LinkedIn, etc., with no understanding of who their buyers are and how they buy. And that becomes quite problematic. I have had scenarios, well, I'll give an example of a client I had last year. in the IT risk management space. They were doing a lot, and for a very complex area within the chemical industry. So we're dealing with very complex solutions, technologies, etc. And in order to tap into some of the organizations that they were looking to get into, they were doing things like, very, very generic, Google ads, social media, not knowing who the decision makers are. And these are engineers, chemical engineers, very, extremely intelligent, very technical people. The go-to-market needs to be dialed into very specific publications, industry publications, industry groups, not going on Google ads. These folks will never use Google ads to be looking at, how they're going to be evaluating cleaning agents that major airlines use on their aircraft. But yet these are the kinds of things I often see all the time, where a lot of very generic tactics that are being used without any understanding of who the decision makers are and how they go about making their assessments, their evaluations, and where they are seeking their advice, insights, recommendations. You often see that misalignment.
Right. So what I hear you say is that they want to expand into a market, but they do not have the strategy first. They directly go to the tactics. They directly go to marketing, but they do not have an understanding how we can have that understanding research of our clients and what are the channels through which we can reach them. So there's no strategy, just tactics, and those also in ad hoc basis. They look at someone doing something and then just trying and replicating them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The buyers of professional services have very, very high expectations. They also have very high depth of understanding. So I guess another watch out in terms of when you're generating the likes of your content, whether it be, articles, white papers, etc. You need to make sure you really have an understanding of what are those priorities, what are those issues, and provide some depth of content. Beware of providing very generic, what I call MBA 101 advice, and content you're putting out there that you're getting through AI generated or from some very simple publication. You're dealing often with professional services. We're dealing with very sophisticated, very highly intelligent business owners who know their industries, they know their business well, and they're looking for solutions. They're looking for a high degree of problem solving, innovation. So you really need to have that depth of understanding, and again, demonstrating that depth of expertise. Coming up with very generic, what I'm going to call MBA Basic 101, the basics of strat, is not going to cut it when you're dealing with a CEO of a tech firm that is looking to crack into new markets, is looking to, potentially undertake an M&A. The firm that's looking to go in, they want a firm that can really help them, undertake some complex transaction and really take their organizations to the next level. Coming out with very basic, fundamental things that, any business graduate student would know, and something that's generated out of AI would be very dangerous. And I've seen that many times because that will blow up in your face. Our buyers, those buying advisory services, are highly knowledgeable. Therefore, they're looking for expertise and that degree of innovation, nuance. And so we have to demonstrate that in our discussions, in the content that we're doing, when we're conducting workshops, events, etc. We have to demonstrate that depth of expertise.
So there is not a lot of time that people pay attention to generating the strategy. So what I hear you is you need a good strategy, go-to-market strategy. You have to understand everything, and then the second process is then now implementing the strategy. And which brings me to you, because a lot of firms may be trying to acquire customers, maybe trying to get into advisory or into different regions, and but they only understand Google ads, they understand AI generated stuff that they could just do it in 5 minutes and just to spray and pray. So for those people that are making those mistakes and they need a strategy, how can they reach to you so that you can help them with their strategy?
Oh, how they can get in touch with me. So they can get in touch with me two ways. One, I'm on LinkedIn. I put out a lot of content on LinkedIn. I do, starting next month, twice a month, I do my LinkedIn Live Ask Michael Anything, where I give 3 tips on some key area and I also will have open Q&A. So connecting with me on LinkedIn is one place. Second place is to go to my website, listeninnovategrow.com. So that's listeninnovategrow.com, all one word. And on my website, there's a whole repository of articles, videos, various content. I also have my free playbook, which is the B2B go-to-market playbook for professional service firms, which goes through how to understand, really understand your clients, how to understand market opportunities, and how to create your go-to-market strategy, which is around kind of 3 core pillars, and what you need to do to go to execute on that. So LinkedIn or listeninnovategrow.com, my website, are the 2 places that you can reach me.
Awesome. So I'll put all the links in the description as well. And before we go, is there anything that I might have missed that you wanted to deliver to the audience to help them understand better the strategy that they should be implementing?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything. But you, I guess at the end of the day, is about being market driven. It's about being buyer driven, and really having an understanding. Again, a key crux and starting point of this is understanding, the buyers of your services. Who are they? What are their priorities? And how do they buy? What is it that they're seeking? Because once you have that understanding of what their key priorities are, and with whom are they going to seek, that will really help to start planning out what are the kinds of things that you need to be doing to acquire new clients, but also to effectively service and support your current clients as well. Do not neglect them because they are a growth engine themselves for your business, because great clients will stay with you. They'll be great advocates and sources of referral, which they themselves can be a key source in helping you to acquire clients and really accentuate the growth engine.
Right. So thank you very much. And I think after this, I'll also go back to my own strategy and make some adjustment as per what we have talked about today. It was very insightful. I hope that others will also find these talks insightful. So thank you very much, Michael, and I'll see you again next time.
Great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation.